Sorry, can you hear me? No? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, shall we get started?
Now we can.
Sorry, I was speaking. Okay, so again, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Very warm welcome to all of you. Thanks to joining us today, IEEE Region 10 webinar series R10Talk. It's Amy Anon, Region 10 AA Committee Chair. It's my great honor to be the host of our 11th webinar on embracing being multidisciplinary, my journey through a decade-long training in medicine and engaging engineering by Dr. Jingzhi An. Before we start the session, I'd like to announce some ground rules. All our attendees are muted on the entries, but you're most welcome to introduce yourself using by chat box. And if you have any question and comment, please use the chat box and the Q&A box. We will have a Q&A talk. So we will try to best to answer all your questions today. And please make sure this webinar is recorded and streamed live via IEEE Region 10 Facebook page. Okay, so I'd like to now move on our welcome address. To deliver the welcome address and introduce our speaker, we have a special guest today, Prof. Akinori Nishihara, IEEE Region 10 Past Director. So thank you, Prof. Aki, for joining us today. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming to this 10 Talk webinar. I'm Aki Nishihara. Well, actually, I was a director from 2019 to 2020, and now I'm past director. Past director to 2021 to 22.
Yes.
But it's okay. It's a small thing. This 10 Talk, as many of you know, that this is a joint endeavor of IEEE Region 10. IEEE Region 10 is Asia Pacific, having 100, more than 130,000 members. It's one third of entire IEEE membership. And this 10 Talk was planned and organized by Region 10 Industry Relations Committee, Professional Activities Committee, Young Professionals Committee, Women in Engineering Committee, and Student Activities Committee. And we focus on enhancing the awareness on trending topics to the community. And today we have a great guest speaker, who is Dr. Jingzhi An. She is a great lady. She received a PhD in electrical engineering from Harvard MIT Division of Health Science and Technology under the mentorship of Dr. Emery Brown, and MD from the Duke NUS Medical School. And Jingzhi received a Bachelor of Engineering in Biomedical Engineering from Imperial College London, where she was awarded the Governor's Prize for graduating at the top of the cohort. Jingzhi is a recipient of the A-Star National Science Scholarship, the Jingzhi An Distinguished Scholars Award for Excellence in MCAT, and the Martha Gray Prize for Excellence in her graduate work on closed-loop delivery of medical coma. Jingzhi also earned the Kaufman Teaching Certificate from the MIT Teaching and Learning Laboratory and the certificate in healthcare from the MIT Sloan School of Management. Well, today's talk is entitled Embracing Being Multidisciplinary. As you listened, she has two doctorate degrees and subtitled My Journey Through a Decade-Long Training in Medicine and Engineering. Well, actually, I have two disciplines actually, but not so different. One is signal processing, and another is educational technology. But in her case, it's medicine and engineering. So it's probably very hard work she did during the last decade. So we hope we have a nice talk from her. So please go ahead, Jingzhi.
So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the very kind introduction, Professor Nishihara. May I request to have the authority? Oh, okay. I was going to ask if I can share screen because I prepared a little presentation to go along with the talk today. Please give me a moment to set up. Are you able to see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, great. So thank you once again, everyone. And it's a great honor to be here, to be invited to this very nice and prestigious talk series. And I'm glad that you've chosen to spend your Saturday with us today to hear about this sharing that I have prepared about being embracing multidisciplinary. And the organizers have told me to think about it as a creative and lighthearted talk, which is what I hope that this would be for you this afternoon. And also, it is a little bit of a chance, and a chance that I really appreciate, for me to really sit down and think about, why did I do all this training in medicine and engineering? What has it been like? And what did it teach me about being multidisciplinary? And this is something that I hope to share with you in the next half an hour or so, and we'll have time for questions and more casual interaction. Okay, so as Prof. Nishihara has kindly introduced, one reason why I'm invited to give this talk on being multidisciplinary is that I've gone through a rather unique training journey, I can say, especially in this part of the world, because it is not so common for someone to go through an undergrad journey and then do a medical school, take a break, do a PhD in a similarly different topic, and then come back to it all. The whole journey for me in my college to graduate training started in 2007 and just ended not too long ago. So a lot of this are still really fresh, and it's something that I'm continually reflecting upon, and how, in terms of what this experience meant for me and how I would use it going forward. So here today, I'm sharing a snapshot of what it has, what I'm thinking about in terms of what this journey has taught me as of today. And I hope that this talk is really targeted towards like young students or people, young professionals, similar in age to me or younger, who are also thinking about what to do, how to choose, how to, in terms of your specialty for undergrad or going forward in the next phase of your training, be whether or not you're considering biomedical engineering, but especially if so. So I hope that you'll find this interesting. So let me go from the beginning of my training journey in Imperial College London, and I'm going to pop you all right into the school. You're standing in the quadrangle of Imperial College, which is the heart of where all the activities happen. In front of you, you're seeing this green building with red doors, very contrasting colors that always reminded me of watermelon. That's the entrance to our Institute of Bioengineering, and behind it is where our Department of Biomedical Engineering lies. My home department is for my undergrad. Now, if you are standing there facing the pink doors, on the right-hand side, those blue glasses leads you into the business school, and next to it, the Department of Mechanical Engineering. What you cannot see on the screen is that on the left, that's the door to the Department of Electrical Engineering. As a biomedical engineering student in Imperial College, and I'm sure the curriculum has evolved a lot over the past decade, but when I was there, and probably still today, we moved between these buildings to take classes from the Department of Mechanical Engineering, from the Department of Electrical Engineering, sometimes going to business school to take project management classes, and back to our home building to do classes on physiology, molecules, and sometimes computer science. As we mingle in this quadrangle, which gets really busy during lunch hours, you run into students who spend most of their time in the other buildings. These are the students who have the home department of electrical engineering or mechanical engineering. So as we are training, we really try to tap upon the resources that's around us to learn about these other disciplines or the more traditional fields of engineering. And then when that happens, and we look beyond across the quadrangle into the medical school and the biomedical sciences area, it is inevitable that this crosses our mind. We are learning a little bit of everything. There's the electrical engineering circuits that we try to learn. We're learning about the molecules, we're learning about coding, we're learning about how to build actual, like using the CNC machines or other, mechanical engineering machines to build structures or processes. Are we therefore becoming a jack of all trades? Am I ever going to be better or good enough compared to the other students walking across the quadrangle, brushing past me, as he spends most of his time really delving into the depths of like a circuit or becoming really, really good at programming? What am I doing that I spread my time thin amongst all these different subjects? So that's like a thought that always lingered at the back of my mind as I went through my undergrad. But being undergrad is really exciting. So very often, these are not like the critical questions that's on the mind. Very soon, I melted into the world of bioengineering and really enjoyed some of the projects that I did. So this is one of my favorite projects from undergrad, where I have this, where I spend my summer inside the Hoger Club, and we have this globe-like structure that has little dots, spinning dots mounted all around it, like the globe you see in sea. And as the little dots spins around, there is a fly that I would mount in the center of the globe, and the fly would look at this globe that's filled with tiny little spinning dots. As I rotate each of these dots individually, I'm inserting an electrode into the brain of the fly and measuring the tuning curve or the response curve of how the fly's neuron will fire at different angles of spinning for those little dots. And with that, we discovered amazing things and mapping out the optic flow neurons that each individual neurons that really responds to a certain direction of movement to the fly, giving me an insight into how fly, with such a simple brain, with only 7 to 8 synapses from the visual, from the front of the eyes to the back of the brain, can process and be able to fly at such complex maneuvers without bumping into walls. And this was really fascinating. And the application of it is to bridge into how we may now flip upon the design that we have in aerospace industry or other industries where we are heavily reliant on a few sensors to do complicated things. Flies with their compound eyes and all those really cool neurons that respond to large and complex infrastructures can allow us to consider an alternative where we use more sensors and less processing to achieve complexity. Other little projects that happened during undergrad that was really fun is this idea of trying to make a visual augmentation device for patients with Vaginitis pigmentosa. This is a condition where patients will lose their night vision very early on in the disease. So I played around with the concept of how we can fuse cameras, the image from cameras with very different properties to extract low light, colorful images and project that back onto the retina of patients in order to help them see better and overcome their disability. As I embrace all these little projects, the thought is not on my mind whether or not I'm the jack of all trades. Each of these projects has its own objectives and has its own appeal, and that really, really excites me. And then later on, when I look back at all this, you realize that each of the project really uses a different amount of different diverse, draws upon different diverse disciplines. As a signal processing part, there's the mechanical part of constructing the devices, and then there's the ultimate goal of either understanding biology so that we can use that to inspire how we can do things better, or we are trying to actively improve the health and physical well-being of individuals. And the thought of whether or not we are jack of all trades that melts into the back of the mind. But then right before I graduate, there was a lecture. We were all really excited because we have passed our final exams and we felt like we are on the top of the world. We are equipped with like 3 years of knowledge, and we've conquered many, many different difficult concepts. And I remember very vividly at that time, Dr. Spencer, one of our mechanical engineering tutors, then sat us down in a class and he sat quietly in front of the lecture room and told us, "You will forget everything you've learned here." And to me, I was shocked. And then he said, "But you will one day know where to look for them when you need to." So really, I felt that as an undergrad, at that time, without having gone through the depth of graduate school, it is hard to appreciate how little you can learn in 3 years, even if it seems like a lot. But yet, what is really valuable is to get the exposure needed to help me make the decision for the next step as to where I should go, and also to have all this knowledge of little bits and pieces of tools that later on I can come back to. So really, I thought, hey, it's not about jack of all trades, master of none, but it's about having many tools of many trades. The next phase of my training is graduate school, and it has several components because it's a mixed and meshed journey that very thankfully a few institutions has kindly agreed for me to take on, and worked out a unique way for me to do all of them. So let's start with the first one. I went into medical school at Duke NUS. This is the first of its kind graduate level medical school in Asia. And it teaches an American-like MD curriculum that is only for students who are after their undergrad level. So this is our classroom, and this is all the students there are in the school. At least 1 year of medical student, there's only this many. We sit in a U-shaped concentric circles and uses a very innovative teaching method called Team Lead, where there's a concept of flipped classroom to learn our preclinical material. The idea is that active learning to question answering without sitting through didactic lectures and giving students the time to learn on their own outside of school, but use the school as active time to apply the knowledge and discuss the knowledge will be a more effective way for students to digest the vast amount of materials required in medical school in a shorter period of time. And this is kind of interesting because most medical school in the world at that point of time, when I started Jingzhi US, make their medical students spend 2 years studying preclinical material before they can go into the ward to see patients or to learn the more clinical material. But Jingzhi US only gave us 1 year, and you still have to cover all the bases. So it was really like what they say, drinking from a fire hose. And in that year, we learned a lot of different things, from molecules, enzymes, how those work in the body, to how cells work together, and how from cells they build up tissues, organs, and physiological systems. And then taking that beyond the realm of the human body to learning also about medical ethics and medical law. And we have to learn hands-on things too, like how do we take blood from patients? How do we care for and do simple procedures to aid in patient care? And we also have to learn how to be empathetic and how to give care and apply the art of medicine beyond the science. Now, if we examine all these different domains through the eye of dividing up a college degree, I would say that this is very multidisciplinary, even though we are all studying the discipline of medicine. Despite it being a professional school that guides us towards that one singular career of becoming a clinician, you can see that each individual boxes in these different domains can become the work of a lifetime. You can make a career out of becoming a phlebotomist, just learning how to draw blood from an individual. You can be a great counselor to talk to people in need. You can study law as much as you want to and make a great career too, probably very lucrative as well. Or study enzyme or a single pathway and really discover something new. So what's happening? Am I being multidisciplinary? Or if I were to just study medicine, am I just being a single discipline? This is when I start to wonder and thought about what is the true definition of being multidisciplinary. And perhaps being multidisciplinary is really a matter of perspective. We all know that we can look at things and learn things at a superficial level, but we can also go very, very deep at it. Then how do we define a discipline? Maybe it's really about, the purpose, the goal, the vision that we set out to achieve. I do not need to know the details of a molecular pathway as well as a biologist or a professor in that pathway. But I do need to know enough so that I know what am I doing when I prescribe a certain drug to a patient and whether or not it is suitable and whether or not it will have a chance of interacting with another drug that I'm giving to the same person. I do not need to know the law as well as a lawyer or ethics as well as an ethics professor, but I need to know enough so that when I care for my patient, I do not cause them harm or do something that is not rightful in the eye of the law. So really, maybe, how we define disciplines is really arbitrary. And I think this is really a freeing thought too, because once I break through the definition or the hard boundary of disciplines, then I feel like there is a sense of liberty to explore and the sense that I can integrate things from multiple different areas. Then I stop asking, hey, I belong to discipline A, discipline B will be too hard for me. There is no way I'm going to go there. You stop deferring learning about new things because you see, you start to think in the sense that if knowledge A is going to help me, then I can just try to acquire it to the extent that it helps me to achieve my aim. This could be taking care of patients, or this could be just doing another project. And we can come back more to this later. Yeah. So with that thought in mind, then I feel like we can go into the next phase, which is when I went to MIT. And at MIT, I thought, hey, now that I am in one of the greatest engineering institutions in the world, what should I learn? And I thought that it is the founding place or one of the places where control engineering really took off. And so I decided to do a project in that. And so happened that Dr. Emery Brown has this really exciting project to think about how we can build physiological closed-loop control systems. And I fell in love with such a project almost immediately after he introduced it to me. The concept of PCLC is that we automate the feedback to decision to action process for personalized and precise drug dosing. And I love it because it is a framework of thinking more than just a simple piece of technology. Because if we look at the current way we deliver care in clinical practice, it can be almost always broken down into such a paradigm where the clinician needs to gather some data from an individual. This can be an EEG, it can be some labs, blood result, imaging studies, or just simple asking questions or doing physical examination. Based on those information, one has to make a decision about what action I should take to treat the patient. There must be a clinical goal and some idea of what I can do to achieve that goal. Once that plan is made, I need to take action. This can be me, through my allied health, or some machines. And in this particular project that I worked on, the feedback is the EEG, which are electrical activity measured from the brain. The decision is how much brain suppression do I want to, or brain inactivation I want to achieve in a patient for induced medical coma. And the action I need to decide on is how much drug I need to give to this person to achieve the desired level of inactivation that I want to achieve. But as you can see that actually in clinical practice, this is like a very cumbersome number of steps. And also it's really hard to guess what is the right rate of drug to give to a specific person to achieve a specific level of brain inactivation. And it often takes many iterations. The concept of PCLC is then, can we semi-automate this feedback to decision to action process by adding in several technical components? A quantitative sensor that does the reading of the EEG for me or some other signal for me. A controller that really helps me to map my thought about what a clinical outcome is reasonable to quantitative things that I can directly drive the actuator that understands the signal to achieve the desired treatment effect on the patient. And if we can do this, the PCLC system will then simplify the task of the care provider so they can focus on the very high order task of deciding on what is the medical goal that is required for a patient. So this is a project I worked on, and there's lots of details in it, which I will not go into for this talk. But if we just look at this very simple diagram, I feel that it's the idea engineering and to design such a controller itself is multidisciplinary in a very subtle way. Because if we look at the quantitative sensor, that's signal processing. And that in itself is a great and deep and very interesting field. And if we look at the controller itself, that's what control theorists do. They think about how do we design algorithms, and in this day and age, we also have the AI, like the artificial intelligence, machine learning, and all sorts of interesting tools to help us with decision making. And then in the realm of computer controllable actuators, I feel that this is a thing that I discovered while thinking through this paradigm that I feel that is really underappreciated. Because a lot of medical devices we have on the market right now, they are designed for use by by nurses, by clinicians, by direct human interaction. But when we try to make computers run these devices in a complex environment that still involves humans, there are many design things that needs to be changed. How would the machine tell me if a human's driving it, or a machine is driving it, or co-driving it? What happens when things go wrong? And how do the computer tells me, and when should the computer tell me that? So this goes into the realm as well as like beyond, just taking research level algorithms and thinking about, because I am a clinician, I want this to be really implemented. The challenges of going from academic study to real implementation of a system that's suitable for using humans. And the challenges in this process also drives a big portion of my thesis. And things that we have to look into is no longer just a simple algorithm for making decisions and whether it improves the AUC, but also how do we implement the software so it's reliable, so that it's robust, and that it can have version controls. And what happens when software meets hardware, and where does that limitation lie? The regulatory science behind such a combinatorics product. How can we verify that this whole system works together in safe and effective manner? And then how do we really test and evaluate such a device, especially if it's mission critical, before we launch it in human being? There are so many interesting questions. And yet on the surface, this is just a control engineering project. But to really do it successfully, to build and ship a product, thinking through all the different components tells us there is really a multidisciplinary effort, and you have appreciation and that kind of awareness in order to drive all the various components together to allow one day that we can have such a tool in real clinical practice. So this taught me that, being multidisciplinary is maybe not just like a choice, but in a way it is inevitable and necessary. Because in this day and age, we have such complex ideas with such complex projects. And yet, on the other hand, even something simple, if we delve deep enough, it can be complex and it can involve many subspecialties in many different ways. Now, going beyond that project, this place, where we are at now is the Brain and Cognitive Institute at MIT, and it's where Dr. Emery and my lab is based. So I remember, carrying that thinking about multidisciplinary to this point, I felt that I remember distinctly there was one day where we were here, I was with a lab senior, and we were pondering about the same question about that I had when I was an undergrad. Because across the street from this building, through those glass panels that you see on the right-hand side, lies the Data Center, where people are using control engineering to do really cool things in robotics, building autonomous driving vehicles. And then a little bit further down the street, people are using the same things to make, space projects, rockets. And that was the Department of Aerospace and Aeronautical Engineering. So the same question that came about in undergrad is that, hey, I am here applying control engineering in such a a juvenile way to healthcare. Perhaps I was playing with PID controllers, perhaps I was playing with LQR regulators, very well established concepts in engineering. So how am I going to compare up against those people who are there designing the top-notch control theory algorithms, making many drones fly together, etc.? What is that difference that we have there? And my senior, and in that moment of crisis and wondering about whether I was ever able to conquer and learn all those difficult control engineering concepts, my senior said to me something that really enlightened me, which is that, well, there are many people out there who are doing very interesting things, who may be more expert in a certain subject compared to you. but are they applying it to doing what you are trying to do? Are they having the same vision or trying to solve the same problem that you? Disciplinary at that time took another meaning for me, is that we are having the motivation, the knowledge, and the position to take certain actions that another person who may be as qualified or perhaps know more about a specific subdomain, but not in the position or having the interest to do the same thing. And that is value in itself, because we need people to be applying the great tools that we have in all sorts of different areas, and especially in areas like health, which matters so much to our population and our race. So the chance to really experience how this integration of clinical and engineering thinking came first to me when I started volunteering at a student-faculty collaborative clinic run by Harvard Medical School. This is a very special experience to me. It is called the Crimson Care Collaborative. It is a Harvard Medical School student and faculty collaborative clinic, and I primarily volunteered at the Internal Medical Associate at the Massachusetts General Hospital. So in this, I started out as a junior clinician, and I was there because I wanted to maintain some form of medical continuity while during my PhD at MIT and Harvard, so that during daytime I could do lots of engineering and controls. But once in a while, I would go to this clinic and just see patients with the senior attendings, just like a medical student. And but on my third year of service at this clinic, I was invited to join the clinic as a senior director. This means that I took on additional roles, that instead of just seeing the patients during the clinic like a clinician, I had to help to run the clinic as well. And these clinics are really interesting because they're built such that along with the medical team, which are the student clinicians, there's also a research team and an operations team. And the senior director's role is to make sure that all those volunteers have a great experience. And then you want to maximize their learning at the clinic, but also we need to ensure a certain level of quality in terms of the clinical care that we deliver. And being on the panel allows me to have some insights into how things work and how organization or how clinics are run. And that has been really interesting because because clinics are really complex systems. And for example, in our little student clinic, after the patient checks in, there are many different moving and dynamic components that supports the care of this patient. So they're seen by the clinical team. The clinical team needs to talk to the attending, and then the patient is seen by the attending again, and then the patient checks out. And then behind the scene, all these moving resources of clinical teams and attendings may be seeing other patients or supporting other students too. So it's a very complex network of things happening. And we have to, as the senior clinicians running the clinic or the board of directors, have to design the policy, have to design this structure, determining things like how much time do we allocate to each clinic session? How many teams should we have? How many attendings do we want to get? And often there are many different interesting conflicting constraints we have to think about. A typical policy question that we ask, for example, is that should we increase the number of clinical teams to better achieve our design objectives, which is to provide clinical care and also to have good educational experience for our students or volunteers. And you can imagine people having different opinions. One would say, well, if we have more teams, then we can see more patients, and patients will wait less, the clinic may end earlier, and will also create more opportunities for volunteering. But another person may come and say, well, but what about the attendings? what if the attendings don't have enough time to support or just cannot support all the teams, and the patients end up waiting longer because ultimately every single person needs to be cleared by an attending. What will happen to, we may not really impact the duration of the clinic. So such opinions arises in a very realistic sense in our boardroom meetings, in quotation marks. And the choice is always then, what do we decide upon? Before I joined the team, the approach that we had was to conduct the experiment. We had our board members follow patients through their journey in the clinic, make observations, and then report back to the team about, report back to the board about what they have observed and what do they think the right answer can be. But when I saw this, I saw a system of complex dynamics, and that can be really benefit from modeling. So we proposed a new approach that is model-based. We have a policy of interest, and we can collect data on what the different timestamps that patients move through the clinic. And from there, we can start to develop statistical models of how long each phase of interaction and each interaction of different people in the clinic would last. And this can also become functions of the type of patients, like how acute they are they urgent cases, or are they chronic care cases? And when we have these data points from multiple clinic sessions, we can start to use the statistical models to make predictions by building simulators that can run large sample sizes by using sampling methods to create different clinical sessions. And this is exactly what we did. So we got our administrators to look into data of timestamps in which patients move through the clinic. From there, I applied basic statistical methods to build distributional models out of the different time points. From there, we can relate them and build a simulator and run Monte Carlo simulation to really iterate through different clinic designs. And now I can put in parameters of how many attendings, the ratio of attendings to clinical teams to the type of patients, and see how I should allocate my clinical resources. And in the end, we can create simulations of hundreds of thousands of clinic sessions based on, hey, what would happen if I have different number of teams in the clinic? And what's our expected outcome? And whether or not it will make a statistically significant effect on what we hope to achieve. So from this, it came out really naturally, and I was really excited to work on this, and it just floated, very naturally out this idea of using models and simulations to solve a problem that the board has already been dealing with using months of basic experimentation. And I feel that that's one great interesting point about being multidisciplinary, is that you're always having these new perspectives and new approaches that may feel quite natural to you, but then it may actually be something innovative just because inside your head, things that you have many different tools they can play with. Yeah, and it just brings on new opportunities. But innovating in a clinical environment is hard. So I want to give a shout out to this really nice podcast in review that I love. And in it has this really nice analogy about doing innovation. It says that, people like the current system is like a green land. And people are trying to protect this forest. Innovation is like a wildfire. It has to burn down what exists right now to build something new. And most of the time, fire will be perceived as something bad. And therefore, the rangers will do all they can to prevent the fire from happening. And innovating in a clinical environment is a little bit like that, because everyone is stressed, overworked, and there's a lot of things to do. And it can feel a bit like trying to change things or repair a moving train. But in certain species of trees, such as these American pines, their seeds would only blossom after being bathed by forest fire. And innovators really believe in the innovation that they will create. And while there are some costs to the process, the hope is that a new generation or more trees would help you to have even nicer forests afterwards. So I think that what that process of like initially implementing the canonical system, or rather creating the models, to eventually educating the team about how we use them, seeing that come to life in our board sessions and people playing with it to design the Connect session was really interesting for me. But at the same time, it also taught me, it's like a live observation of this design thinking paradigm that many of you may be familiar with. It starts with the idea of I can do something differently, ideate, prototype, and go from there. But what I think is interesting is that this design thinking paradigm seems to say, or rather, this particular chart of it seems to suggest that the first step starts with empathy, or that you would think about a problem and feel that, hey, I feel for you and I want to solve it for you. But really, when I tried to innovate the projects along the way, it felt like the empathy has to happen at so many different steps. It's not just about creating the prototype, but again, like my PCLC project, I think it's really important for technology to think about it from empathizing the user perspective in the implementation process to empathize with the people who are trying to adopt a new thing, the forest rangers who are trying to embrace a fire or to experiment with it. And that empathy carries throughout the entire process. And I think only when we have such empathy, we can really make projects come to life. And I think, and then this then makes me think about something else, back to the medical school thing. That the core of medical practice is about empathy as well. It's not just about having the right medicine, but we comfort always and sometimes. And this is one of the interesting things is that when I have all these different little stream of thoughts, I see interesting connections, and that's really, really delightful for me in my mind. And that's like one of the key things that I just really enjoy about being exposed to things, to different subjects. Because because very often, again and again, I'll come across things that seems to be so unrelated and that they are linked up together. And there's a lot of joy just inherent to that process of discovering and, have feeling like my mind is being entertained. And then closing to the end, I want to also just bring up this caveat. So I feel that I've definitely gone through a very long journey in this whole process. And what you see here on the screen is a screenshot of a piece of handout that I received during my digital controls class by Professor Trumper at MIT. And this is very interesting because in this modern day and age, we often have PowerPoints. And in MIT, a lot of professors are obsessed about using latex to make their notes really nice. And then this Professor Trumper, who is also on my thesis community, he hands out notes as handwritten. And every time that he hands out these notes, he kind of just say, life is short. And so we should pardon him because life is short. At first, I was just very entertained by this, but eventually I felt that there is really a lot of depth in this thought. Whatever we choose to do, whatever we choose to learn in our life, I used to think about them as I am investing time. I spent 10 years trying to learn medicine, engineering, go through all this training. But really what I'm investing is life. It's a decision of how I spent my life, time that I will not have back again. And the experience and the journey is what I decided to have. And so life is short. Think about time as life. And choosing to be multidisciplinary is kind of a choice. And you can choose it. You can choose to not embrace it. It's a choice of how we want to spend our life. So to conclude, we covered many different thoughts as we go through my little journey through Imperial, to UCAN US, to Harvard and MIT. So to summarize, I felt that being multidisciplinary is really about having the tools of many traits, but really the boundary between discipline is a matter of perspective. You can say that I'm being very multidisciplinary, but really when I go through all of my life diseases of what I wanted to do, it's really a very, targeted idea of what kind of concepts or what kind of knowledge I might be helpful if I want to innovate in the medical space in the future. And I think that no matter what we do, having multiple disciplines is inevitable and necessary. And by thinking and caring about different things, that it gives us unique motivation, knowledge, and position to act and to make the world a little bit different in our own unique ways. And finally, it's just really fun to enjoy the different perspectives and approaches and feeling delighted by the connections that we make. And to that, I just want to encourage everyone, and especially all the students around us, to go forth with courage, faith, and empathy, and just enjoy the journey, no matter what you choose. And that's the end of my talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jingzhi. Oh, great talk. So, yes, it's really inspired me. Thank you very much. So, we would like to ask some questions. Do you have, for dear attendees, if you have any questions, please write down your message or comment or question in the chat box. So maybe they need some minutes to write that in. So I'd like start with the Region 10 member who has a question. If you have a question, please ask. How about Prof. Aki? How about you?
Yeah, well, I enjoyed your talk of your decade-long journey, and actually, this is my first time to see you and talk to you, but I checked your IEEE membership history. Sorry for that, but you started as a graduate student member and then became member, and then graduate student member again, and then member, and then student member, and then graduate student member, and now member. So it's very interesting. Yeah, from this, I see your long journey, but yeah, it's good to know that this journey and you learned a lot from multidisciplinary. So yeah, I enjoyed your talk very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Aki. And now we have some questions. Let's start the question from Nini Tan. Thank you so much for your sharing. I would like to know the multidisciplinary processes with biomedical engineering.
Sorry?
He would like to know the multidisciplinary process with biomedical engineering.
I wonder what the person who asked the question, I think it's Nini, meant by wanting to know more about my precise view for bioengineering. I'm not too sure, what drives that question, but perhaps Nini wants to clarify it because there could be so many things to talk about for
Yeah, probably you have two disciplines, medicine and engineering, but biomedical engineering is something to link between two, medicine and engineering. So probably he or she asks the difference between your multidisciplinary and biomedical engineering.
Yeah. I think I started out as a biomedical engineer, like for undergrad training. And I think in a way, when I went to grad school, I kind of had it in mind to take it a little bit extreme to really do medicine and engineering. But I think it's the spirit of grad school or further training is to expand on the basics. And I do think that in the end, bioengineering as a discipline is that, I talked about the fact about being in a discipline driven by the mission and the vision of what you want to achieve. And I feel that bioengineering is kind of like an early on commitment to saying that I'm going to focus on human health or biology as the application area of the tools that I'm learning. People who are in electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, or a traditional field, they can still go and work in health and in biology and stuff. And in that way, it is not a hard line to say that if you are a bioengineer, you can do X and other people can, or vice versa. But really, in the end, it's just I feel that it's a clear declaration of the intention. And I think if that interests you, you can do that. Or if at the undergrad stage, it feels like a bit much to say that I'm narrowing to, health and biology, then you don't have to declare yourself as a biomedical engineer at that time. Yeah, that's what I hope answers the question that Yi has.
Okay, thank you. And another question is whether will it be difficult to pursue a professional career after being a multidisciplinary career?
I hope not. Currently, I'm in the clinical training. Like each profession that I think like becoming a doctor is a profession, and I think once someone has said that you can pursue many things, but becoming a profession is what you get paid to do. So in the end, I think that when I started choosing or deciding where to go or what career I have, at the end of my graduate training, the more feedback than not I got is about the diversity of opportunities that's open to me rather than the lack thereof. So very often I get asked in my interviews now, like as I'm doing another phase of transition to further my training, is that why do you not choose to go into a startup, or why do you not choose to do X, but you want to choose us? And then it's kind of funny because then it's like an inverted question of like people get asked like, why do you want to do X? And then now in my interviews and multiple of them, I get asked, why do you not want to do everything else? So I think that if the concern is that being too multidisciplinary would put you at an inferior to your peers who have very clear statement about what their contribution or their uniqueness is like. I think that you just gotta really focus on the fact that at the undergrad level or whichever training, we are never going to for the job that we apply for, and it's always going to be a continual learning process. And I feel that we can, if you do have a multidisciplinary background, a good thing to work upon is to show that dexterity of mind, in that you can adopt and you can adapt to many different ideas, and that can actually be quite a valuable skill set in the job market, if that's your concern. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So there are many choices in the future. Okay. Okay, so next question is from Peter. Many thanks, Jingzhi. Are you still hoping to run in another new field to find more novel connections across fresh boundaries? How is this journey continuing for you?
I
Another
think
new
that,
field.
yeah, that's a really great question. So I think that one slide that I cut out in the end for my talk is that recently I got a t-shirt from my medical school. So we are split in like a Harry Potter style into colleges at my medical school, Duquesne, US. And my college recently sent us a t-shirt as a graduation present. And on it says like Artes Brevius, Vita Longus. The art, or no, the other way wrong. Sorry. It's like basically saying that the art is long, but life is short. I think that in Chinese there has a like almost equivalent saying. It's like the journey of learning or what you can learn in this world is endless, but our life is limited. So if you want to pursue what is limitless with what is limited, it's quite a decision, So I don't think we can ever really finish learning or feel that it's this out of new and interesting ideas for us to pursue. I think it's more about the practicality of what's next and when am I gonna start have a real job and pay for my food. But then the thing is, it's not really that different the choice, because in the end I feel that one thing that graduate school taught me more than an undergrad degree is how much depth that can be in little things. Yeah, I have a friend from MIT who spent his entire thesis trying to decide or come up with how to best fit balls into a bag. And you're like, what? You spent 6 years doing that? No. So there's a lot of really interesting things to think about, and I feel that for me in medicine, there's a natural advancement, which is that you would specialize after degree, and in that specialization process, you're becoming more of a professional day by day, but you're not really in a way like giving up on domains. You're kind of like everyone's mental capacity or attention is bracketed, and then you are choosing to spend that to delve deeper into a particular subject. And then for me, that's what I'm doing now, is that I'm actually looking into what to specialize in terms of medicine. And I think there's two reasons. One is just that there's I feel that there in death you reach a new height of like interesting things. Another is that also in terms of going back to that idea of being in a position to do things, to contribute, to innovate. I feel like the part about being able to empathize with people who are already doing it and to really understand what is the state of art is quite crucial, so that you can really make the next step. And this is especially in something that is is like a complex field that has a lot of history. Yeah, so for me, that's how it's gonna work. That I'm gonna specialize and find ways to contribute in that sense. Yeah. So in a few years, I hope I can tell you that I'm a specialist in X. Yeah.
Great, great.
Uh,
We are waiting the
yeah.
next your story.
Yeah.
So next question is from Pradeep. The session was very interesting. I am currently a BME student, undergraduation from India. I really loved your way of presentation. Thanks. Do you think is it possible to visualize a person, thought, or dream in screen computer? Just asking now. Curiosity. So
I think this presents some like interesting idea that is.
dream and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. to visualize a person's thought
Yeah,
or dream
also,
in computer.
yeah,
So
yeah.
actually, when I was in Imperial College, one of my good friend, he's also from India, and he said that his life goal is to download his own consciousness into a computer. And I think like companies like Neuralink, I mean, I'm speaking of my domain because you know, no personal experience there, but there are some thoughts of like, you know, the true like brain human it will be that we can really have a great thought integration with computers. So never say never. I do think there are lots of technical details and challenges, and we will need a lot of work to get there. But if that's your dream, I know other people are dreaming about that too, and why not give it a go? Yeah.
Yeah, if we can see our dream on our thought in the screen, it will be very interesting. And we
Yeah, they'd be really scary too.
can
Maybe no secrets.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much. So, okay, okay, thank you so much for your talk, a wonderful talk today. So, dear participants, so thank you for your many comment and question to Dr. Jingzhi. And I'd like to request all participants to give us your feedback on this program for improving our upcoming event by scanning this QR code or URL link, which we will share on the chat box. Okay, so let's move on the closing. So we are moving on the closing remarks. As a vote of thanks and the closing remarks, I'd like to invite Dr. Zia Mohammed, IEEE Region 10 Vice Chair. Dr. Zia, over to you.
Thank you, Emi-san. Thank you so much, Dr. N, for your very inspiring talk. It's really fascinating, your journey over the last 10 years or so. It's really very, very pleasing to see that how young generation is embracing multidisciplines now. In all the fields, in biological sciences and physical sciences and engineering, they are now converging in people like you are really breaking new grounds with innovative thinking and with different perspectives. As you rightly said, that multidisciplinary gives you a very new perspective on things. So really, most of us dare to pinch only 2 drops from the ocean of knowledge, but it seems you have taken more than few drops, which is really very lucky thing to do, and you are applying it. And so that's more for everyone. I'm sure everyone who was present in today's talk would be really thinking in a different way after listening to you. At my age, I'm still thinking that yes, life is short, but still I can learn new things. So really very, very inspiring and fascinating talk, and Dr. N. And really, we are very grateful to you for taking out your time to give us this wonderful talk. I hope we will have you again sometime and learn more about your journey. I'm sure it's evolving and it's you are going into a specialized area in the future. So we will be interesting to know how you are doing. Thank you so much. And on behalf of Region 10 and the team for Region 10 Talk program, we have got an electronic soft copy of a memento for you, but I hope in due time we will be able to send you something tangible. We have got it, but it's not presently in Singapore office, but hope in a few months' time we will be able to send you something as a token of thanks for your time and for sharing your wonderful journey of medicine and engineering. So thank you very much, Dr. N. I've got to say thanks to many other people as well, because this is the last webinar of the series for this year, 2021. And so first of all, I would like to thank Professor Akinori for really giving his time for welcoming you to speaker. And in fact, this whole concept of webinar was conceived during Professor Akinori's directorship right after the student young professional women in engineering and life member congress we had virtually. And after that I think one thing we have learned from COVID-19 is that we can do a lot of things online now. And so after that Congress, we start thinking about what we can do really to deliver something useful to our members. And this R10Talk program came out of that thinking. And we conceived this idea back in 2020, but we implemented it in 2021. And our current director, Deepak Mathur, was really very supportive of this, and he gave us a very free hand to start this program. So thanks to Deepak Mathur as well. I would also like to thank our R10Talk team for organizing this program. I would start with our young members of the team, Ashwant and Isham were looking after all the graphic designing and publicity material. Reno and Prashant providing the technical support for us. Dr. Hanita and Dr. Akila giving all the coordination and getting things done. Dr. Akila played a very vital role in this, in really organizing everything and keeping all of us sick. Up to date about what is happening, who is doing what. So thank you, Dr. Akila, for that. Dr. Khanita, thank you very much for your work also, especially for uploading the recording of these webinars on YouTube so people can go back and listen to webinars again. And I'm sure many of us will be doing that again with this Dr. N's presentation. I will be doing that. I would like to see that your presentation again, Dr. N. It's so inspiring. I would also like to thank the chairs of 5 different committees of Region 10 who collaborated to bring this program, starting with our Dr. Savita Sivakumar, who is chairing the IEEE Young Professional Committee. Always very vocal about new ideas. Thank you, Savita. Dr. Amisan, I have to double thank Dr. Amisan for the wonderful moderation for this session today, and also your contribution over the last 8-9 months to make this program successful. Dr. Jennifer, for chair of IEEE Students Activities Committee, your hard work and your suggestions and your help was wonderful. Dr. Prakash, Professor Prakash Lohana, who is chairing the Professional Activities Committee of Region 10. Thank you, Prakash, for the wonderful support to this program and suggesting the name for this series. Very appropriate name for the program. Dr. Sanjay Kumar Chaudhary, who is heading our Industry Relation Committee. We not only providing support to organize this program, but we have been dumping many administrative work also on him, like organizing the online meetings to prepare this program. So thank you to Sanjay as well. I think I must thank our members also who have been joining these webinars in a large number in encouraging us to deliver better programs. So we will be back in 2022 with more exciting programs, with more exciting speakers. So I hope we'll continue to bring this, to make this program more successful in next year. So thank you all for me. Over to you, back to you, Amy-san.
Yeah, thank you a lot, Dr. Jia, for your kind words. Again, we would like to hear your feedback as well. So please let us know your feedback to improve our next webinar in 2022. And please do connect with us through our LinkedIn, Facebook, and the YouTube channel to know update of IEEE Region 10 event. So once again, thank you so much for joining today. Looking forward to having you at the next event. It will be in 2022. And thank you and have a good weekend. Bye-bye. So all panelists, please stay here. So we would like to move on very quick group photo with all our panelists. So I would like to request all panelists turn on your camera. Please wait a bit. Okay. So everyone is ready for the photo? Akira, when you, Onoe Sensei, can you turn on your camera? Okay. Hello, we are waiting you. Okay, everyone here? When you? We cannot see you, only your background. Oh. Okay, so take your photo. When you are ready. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. One more. 1, 2, 3. IEEE. Okay. Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Didi.
Bye-bye.
Thank you everyone for having me. Thank
Everybody.
you. Bye bye.
Good.
Thank
Wonderful
you. Thank
speech.
you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.